And what's up, That's a good intro. That's good. She uses it all the time.
Yeah.
Welcome into the Season of Hope, the Lightweaver update. Dev Insight Show. We've got Aggro, we've got LermyWermy, and we've got Ven to talk a bit about everything that this new update has to offer. Of course, the end of the update, headlined by the newest Aggro Goddess in Ix Chel.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you learned from your process on Maui and now moving to God number 2? Are you getting the hang of it?
Well, I was gonna agree with you until that last part.
Where did you want me to cut off?
Yeah. Did I learn from Maui?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, things were very different on Ix Chel than on Maui. In a way that, the first time you're doing something is always going to be more difficult, especially when it's spanning months, multiple departments,
right.
All of these things. To describe myself as running around with a chicken with my head cut off would be generous to chickens without heads.
Yeah,
I can relate to that a little bit.
it was absolute psychosis for a little bit there. Ix Chel was much smoother. I definitely did not put other teams in as difficult of positions as I did on Maui, which was something I really wanted to focus on. Every god has their challenges. We definitely had to make some pivots at times during Ix Chel's development, and that is always kind of stressful. But I think that she turned out unbelievably well. She feels great. I think she fills the character fantasy that I wanted her to try and fill, and how her gameplay feels, and
good.
I'm very, very happy with it.
I think Aggro's not gassing himself up enough here. I think he made a really fun mage, and especially a flexible mage too, considering she has decent CC, good peel, she's got healing, just fun all-around character that's really flexible in a lot of different ways.
Then I know your exposure to Ix Chel is limited now. SPL mid laner, do you have any early...
It's been 10 minutes. Is she viable?
Yeah, right. Is she viable?
Where is she on the tier list,
Is that
Ben?
the world's winning...
Have you seen any of her numbers whatsoever?
I've been told the numbers.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that she is probably very good.
Oh, okay.
Probably another Baron. So good luck with the balance on that one.
Yeah, have some fun.
Remember
in
chat,
chat...
everything should be broken on release. I'm a fan of that. So more fun.
Yeah, I'm excited. She looks great.
She looks
Visually it looks amazing. Chat, remember to ask questions. We're doing 30, 45, whatever minutes of Q&A now. We'll sit here and chat, but if there's any questions you guys have specifically about this update, feel free to toss them out there.
I got one.
We'll get to them. Yeah, Ben, go ahead.
Favorite part about designing her? What was her, or your favorite ability, I guess?
The ultimate was just such an easy slam dunk. It was just we don't have an ability that feels like this in the game. We know it'll play well in Smite.
It looks good. It looks like it's very smooth. So.
Yeah, it feels really good.
Yeah.
I think getting the AO1 BO1 loop because that's really where a lot of the kit iteration went was. How do we swap you from your first one to your second one? How frequently are we doing it? All that kind of stuff. And we tried a lot of different ways. And I remember the first time, Lermy, I don't know if you do, but
I do.
It was for a long time the gleaming blast, just the little kind of Hammer Screech looking ability. That was an 8-second cooldown for the majority of 8 to 10 seconds for the majority of the early development. And the first time we set it to 5 seconds, I was like, oh, this is it. You just feel like you can constantly I just gutted the damage, shorten the cooldown.
There's a sliding scale, right?
Exactly.
Higher cooldown, more damage. You gotta keep the balance a little bit there.
Yeah, and the second that we kind of discovered this super low damage, super low cooldown, spam to get this boom boom type of feeling, I was like, oh yeah, this is what
very
I was
old
looking for.
Nox vibes that I got from that. It seemed really cool. I was a big fan of it.
Very spammy in that way, for sure.
Cool.
Yeah. Lermy, we do have a question ready from chat. I'm gonna ask you about Ix Chel. I think they're gonna pull it up here in a second. But Lermy, I'm gonna ask you about Ix Chel and a specific Lermy nerf that could be happening at some point. How successful was the class buff with how's the class buff with year X been, like the pen on assassins?
I think generally it's been pretty successful. We've adjusted it a little bit across the board, but overall it has given, different reasons to play different characters in different spots. For a long time last year, we weren't seeing magical ADCs at all. With them getting a little bit of that early game, having the Mage bonus, it let them show up for a little bit. Of course, they had some other stuff that was pretty good as well. But I think that's one example, especially with the Assassin example. It's not that we're against having warriors in the jungle, but the Assassins getting that early pen gives them a lot more reason to be played in the jungle. It gives you a lot of that synergy that we were really looking for, and I feel pretty good about it across the board. Less
hunters in mid. I think that that flexibility is definitely a goal. We like that. We like having picks that can be flexible,
of course.
That you don't have to have a mage or you don't have to have an assassin in the jungle. But being able to more clearly define what these classes are good at, and also just gives us another, you hear us use this term a lot, like another knob to turn in the future.
Exactly.
Where, assassins are overperforming, we get to touch their class bonus, and that affects all of them without having to nerf, these 5 assassins and make those 5 assassins feel significantly worse.
And not only that, because if we're talking about, let's just use assassins as an example. There's kind of 2 camps of assassins where you have your Kalis and Bakas, and you have your Thors and Tsukiyomis and other characters that are really focused on abilities. There's not gonna be anything that really covers that whole camp. You gotta kind of decide, and a lot of times it's been Jotun's is the answer, whatever the katanas are is the answer for the other ones. But having this entire kind of class archetype that we can say, okay, Assassin's performing really, really well, we can just turn that knob down, and now Assassin's doing less well.
Yeah, there's a lot for you guys to track as well, and at some point I'm going to ask about how you've taken feedback and things like that from the big healing update that we've had recently. Before we get there, I believe Aggro and Ven have a question from chat. Or Dolson. Okay. No, it's okay. This is great.
We get mistaken all the time, for sure.
Aggro, you dip your toes into some Pro SMITE viewership every once in a while. I know this is far out, but once Ix Chel starts to be used in the pro scene around Summer Masters, do you expect her to appear more in the mid lane or flex to solo/support? Really, and I know this is angled, I'm certainly not an analyst. I have no idea. Ven, do you have any early indications, Ven? I know you really need to get in, feel the numbers, see the numbers. Some utility in the kit, some healing in the kit. Do you have any early thoughts, Aggro? I'm sure you two actually might have a mindset. And this is maybe just for God design in general, if you feel like there's viability in the other roles. But Ven, from your perspective, you think standard?
Looking at her numbers right now, yeah, she'll be played in mid for sure. But
gotcha.
I'm sure.
What jumps out at you?
We got a big Numbia 300 here.
Yeah, we like that.
Yeah, that's on the second one. Her one kind of hits hard later on. That's a big Numbia as well, and it flashes. So big Numbies, once it gets nerfed, I'm sure it's gonna be support.
Well, if she gets nerfed.
Yeah. So to answer this question, because it was addressed at me, I do see a lot of big numbers in her kit, and I see big numbers, and I do expect.
We love big Numbies in the mid lane. Yeah.
I imagine intentionally, right? I mean, designed. I know you talked just a bit ago about having flexibility in roles and that being important. Intentionally, or intended maybe for mid. But do you think there's viability in tank/utility type roles?
Yeah, I could see like a Chang'e style, Chang'e solo where you're going like one power item into a regrowth and a binding or something like that, some tank items, a Genji's, like when you just have a lot of abilities available to you, that is an inherent advantage in SMITE because of proc items. So I think there's definitely a world where, Reaver and Genji's Guard and regrowth and like Stone of Binding could work. But I think that she is very clearly going to be better in mid.
Better over mid.
Than either of those.
She's a good mini game player, though. She's stacking the tablet, stacking the prophetic cloak.
Good stacker.
Yeah, that's great for me and my brain constantly needing to function. Before we move to the next question, Lermy, you're a big 4, 5, 6 a.m. gamer.
Oh,
yeah.
Frequently.
The biggest, maybe.
So do you feel like this is a direct the blind flashbang is a direct attack at you
Listen,
at 4 o'clock in the morning. You're slamming the cues.
Lermy did message me many times during her development going, if I get blinded by this ability one more time, like I am burning out my eyes.
Can you get the message at 3 in the morning?
It was not that mean.
No, it wasn't.
I was like, hey, Aggro, I really think that we should adjust
Okay,
this.
there was a middle ground there. Okay, somewhere in between what we're saying is what was actually happening.
I believe somebody in chat did have a question, though, about Mage supports, which we've seen a little bit more of in recent updates. Now, the Mage supports have been solidified in their support potential. Are there any less obvious picks that you think are sleeper good in support? So for anyone in this room.
Less obvious, though. That's the kicker, right?
Who do we consider obvious in support?
Yeah, Ben's taking notes right here.
Who do we consider obvious?
Nox, Eset,
Afro, Baron, I would consider obvious.
Maybe.
Is Hell considered obvious in support right now?
She's like
I don't know if she
right
would
in
be.
the middle, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like a
She
Mike
used
pick,
to be.
right?
Yeah, it used to be in a Mealsy pick. Like, that was big
Oh,
a Mealsy
sure.
and Mike
Yeah.
pick.
OG.
Yep.
No, not Morgan Le Fay, chat.
No, Morgan Le Fay, not really working. Dardes, once upon a time, played Agni support. It was full
Giannis?
damage. Yeah, Rong, you had the Giannis support. That wasn't good.
We don't want to talk about that. Well, you just got a big buff, right?
He did get a big buff, and it's not good for support. Which was intentional, by the way. You know, we're always worried about Giannis support. You know, it could take over the meta at any time.
And I want to talk to Ven about Giannis at some point. Outside of the initial, these are obvious. I mean, we did list a good handful of mages there. After the last couple of weeks, are there any that you're surprised you're not seeing a bit more of in support, or do you think it's kind
I
of
wouldn't say surprised, but
shaking itself out
I'm
properly?
thinking like Morrigan could be pretty fun in support. Whether
I've
it's
long
good,
said that Morgan support could work.
I don't know if it's
Because
good
if you need a
ever.
tank, you just change into
You
theirs.
just-
Oh,
If
right.
If
Yeah.
you need a damage dealer, you just change into theirs. Like, you don't have to use your stuff.
But then you're
And all
talking
the
about like,
inting
support
you did in
mechanics.
lane is
Right, right. But then you've got support mechs. Right, that is a challenge potentially.
Ooh.
No, my first of all, it's not a mage, but anytime I'm thinking of non-traditional supports, our good friend Neil Ma of the Iron Gang.
The Iron Gang. Well, you're not part of the Iron Gang.
I would say
you're the
Neil was
opposition.
part of the Iron Gang.
You're the opposition
Thank you very much.
to the Iron Gang.
I was just mentioning. Hachiman support is one of his favorites. It's bad unless you're Neil.
Surely Karnos support has to be better than Hachiman support.
I'm not here to debate Hunter support.
He has built-in
And the way
crossbow.
that he whips that.
But Neil is built different on it. No, but I think Raijin support could work. You know,
Sure.
all you need is a little
Last time
gem.
Raijin
The next
was
has
good.
got to be Agni. It's just got to be the next slot.
Yeah, I mean range stun. But look, I mean think about it this way: Raijin,
Yep.
ranged, like easy to confirm slow. You build gem, everyone can't move.
And they get less shields.
And they get less shields.
Less shields.
You've got a Mez on your jump in, which you don't have to care about too much if you're
tanky,
tanky,
right?
right?
You
And then
dazzle.
you've got an ultimate with a fear or a taunt.
That's simple enough that even I can understand it, and that's saying something.
Bingo.
Ven, I believe chat has a question for you if I read properly. For Ven, do you think the Giannis buffs, okay, perfect, will be enough to make him a better option in mid, even though most mid items have pen on them? And so it's what? Every point you put into your ultimate,
You gain percent
just
pen.
percent pen.
It's not.
up
I
to
saw
a
some
max of
confusion.
16?
Right. I saw some confusion on Twitter about this for both Circuit and for Giannis. It is not when you cast your ultimate. It is
A stat.
a stat you gain
Yes, that's
from
what I
putting
understood
points
it.
into your ultimate. So if you've got 5 points in your ult, if you're level 20, you have 16% pen all the time.
Yep.
On Giannis, it is just a free stat that you're gaining that is gated through points in your ult.
So Giannis buffs. Then are we seeing?
Yeah, he has
seeing more Giannis.
Probably because his build path is still really good. I mean, it's just a unique mage build, right? Like you're always going to go like Chronos and Desto, Soldier, Mirrodin, like those types of items that are like one-off.
Yep.
The only problem that he always has is he's not really the best like procking character with like reavers, tablets, stuff like that. He does proc Soul Gem well. He is also a one ability character, you know. So that's always a hurtful thing. But being able to skip one of the items, which would be one of the buff, 16% pen now with it, I think, right, max rank. Yeah. It should help him be able to build his path properly, which would then surely should enable him to be doing the proper amount of damage and stuff.
Yep.
The biggest thing usually for Janus is just like if his counters are in the meta, and then how much like pressure in the meta is there.
Right.
Like you need to make up for and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it someone in chat asked it is percent pen.
Yeah.
that you
Yes,
gain.
percent.
And it was 16% at
at
max,
level
yep.
5 of
And the new cap is 32, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
That should help them all.
So
out,
it's
though,
it's
just
still
in
the
general.
same fraction
Yeah.
of the cap. It's just actually less overall. So
Yeah.
that's all the math that you
Are
can
the percent pen changes based on your friendship with Polar Bear Mike? I saw some happiness out of his Twitter feed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just constantly getting bribed by any amount of people to do any balance change. Hit the PayPal. That is a joke. That is a joke.
And somehow it'll still.
I know. I knew it was a mistake as soon as I said it. No,
They're
Ben, you know
gonna
the
cut-
PayPal.
They're gonna cut the.
I know.
That is also a joke. That second one was still clearly a joke.
Yeah, no, it's I think that overall the pen changes they feel a little funky because it's just been, increments of 10, 20 for so long, but we know that from messing with percent pen in the past on when before it was Obsidian Shard, you just got 33% and that was it. It was so easy to get that, and before that you did no tank damage, and after that you one-shot all the tanks. I think that by reducing the overall percent pen, yes, it is going to affect tanks more, but I think that it will noticeably change the amount of burst damage that people are dealing to everybody in the late game, which is something that, the community is obviously talking about a lot right now. And so, I don't think that there's never any one thing that we can go, nice, we solved this giant issue.
not,
Like
right.
one thing, it's done. But we think that this is a very good step in that
Yeah.
direction.
And one point to kind of jump off of that is that we are pretty happy with how the early game is right now. We feel like we're sitting in a really nice spot where the early game is just deadly enough where kills can happen, leads can be accumulated, but it also doesn't get too scary in the late game. And that's one thing that we want to, again, work on. And this is one step, like we were talking about, to making that late game a little bit more contentious. You're not getting one shot, two shot as much, at least. And that's our goal moving forward.
And we've seen a lot of talk as well about, 9.5 last year and what that addressed and all that kind of stuff. And that obviously had a effect on the burst damage and how quickly people died across the entire game. But that was much more early game focused.
Yes.
If you go back and read our dev notes during that time, watch that patch note show, we were really talking about leaving the late game less affected and really focusing on our early game, because remember back then people were just getting blinked on by junglers at level 2 and
Which was successful.
instant.
It is still successful. By the
Yeah,
way.
which still works.
Still successful.
Like,
Yeah.
everyone was like, "Oh, early game deaths
Yeah.
are dead." It's like, no, it just takes a little bit of time to get used to.
Exactly.
This change in a similar way, where it's weighted towards one half of the game, but still going to affect the other half a little bit. This is more weighted towards late game burst damage, whereas 9.5 was more weighted towards early game burst damage. So hopefully, with these two things, again, not saying we're done with it, but we feel like this is a good step in that direction.
We're monitoring. You're also the type that leaves the volume on a funky number and not a 0 or a 5.
No,
these changes.
volume is okay for 0s, 5s, and even numbers.
We have talked about this so much in balance, where we're like,
Just how it looks.
hey, we should nerf this by this amount. Okay, but it leads it at a 2. Can we make that a 0?
all the time. All the time.
One of the big changes with 10.3 was some of the healing changes. I think there was a question for the devs about healing. With all the healing changes, what are the devs' stances on out-of-combat healing versus in-combat healing balance-wise? I know it's something you're probably monitoring after all we've seen.
Yeah, so we've definitely been taking a very close look at stats for healers post Season of Hope launch, both their individual win rates and their specific healing outputs, and seeing how those two things compare.
Per mode.
Per mode, per skill level, all that kind of stuff. Overall, healing has gone down significantly in every mode.
For some characters, way more than others.
For some characters, way more than others. Like we said on the patch notes show, Afro, one of the only Afro and Guan, the only two gods that are getting healing specific nerfs. You can deduce pretty safely that their healing numbers were higher than we wanted them to be post Season of Hope change. Overall, I think for such a massive, drastic change to the healing system, I would say, for me personally, not speaking on behalf of the whole dev team, but I'm pretty happy with where we've landed right now. Obviously, a lot of adjustment to do on specific gods, but I think that if our goal was to reduce the overall sustain in the game and still keep the characters who have sustain as part of their identity interesting and fun, but just in different ways.
Yeah.
I think that I'm pretty happy with how close to that mark we've come so far.
Well, it's an incredible undertaking, right? And what we say,
A terrifying
70 gods.
Basically, half the gods in the game or more have healing, so it's in some manner or another. So considering the amount of changes that we did, I'm honestly very, very pleased with how just close we were with a lot of the things. Of course, some of them, we weren't so close with, but that's okay. Yep. Sometimes we, we need the data to back it up. Those feelings, and we certainly did get the data for some characters in particular, not going to mention any, but things like that will happen, but we're always quick to adjust. We're always looking at the data, and we want to keep making the game fun for everybody, so keep giving us the feedback. More than happy to hear those kind of things, and if we haven't done enough, let us know and we'll keep doing more.
Now, Aggro, I have a question for you, and this was asked in chat a little while ago, so sorry, production. Obviously, a design cycle for a god takes a little while.
Yeah.
I'm sure you began Ix Chel.
Yeah, when did
prior to 10.3. Yes. Of course, way prior to 10.3.
Yeah.
There's some healing in her kit.
Mm-hmm.
How did that timing with the 10.3 healing changes affect the overall design process with the god with healing in their kit?
Yeah, it's a very good question. We knew that this was going to be a goal for 10.3 pretty early. In the way that early playtesting goes for new gods, numbers are just in flux like constantly.
All the time. So much.
And once we knew the general scope of how hard we wanted to nerf healing, she was probably one of the first gods that had their healing numbers reduced because I was just in there changing numbers multiple times a day, every day. But yeah, my pitched numbers for her abilities were based on old healing values, and then I had to change them to the newer healing values.
It was the same for me and Martikaras, right? But the difference with Martikaras is he was out the door by the time that 10.3 was going to ship.
You had to have your nerf ready to go.
I know. I was like, I designed it to be 1%. You're telling me it has to be 0.8? What the heck?
Yep.
I know. I was, of course it has to be that way because he has lifesteal, but it is what it is at the end of the day. He's not supposed to heal as much as he was, so had to get nerfed.
And something people might find interesting is that we do things like that even when there aren't going to be big systems changes. Right. Like when we're releasing a god, we kind of know, like, okay, if they're weak, these are the things we're probably going to buff. If they're strong, these are the things we're probably going to nerf.
We have that plan ready.
And we have those numbers like literally, like I have them in a doc for Ix Chel. Like if she's strong, I want to do this.
Yep. And
if community feedback is saying, I thought a lot of the strength was going to be in one ability, and then they say it's in a different one, then those are all, we're not locked into those by any means, but we're not like, all right, they're out the door, and I'm not going to think about them at all.
Right.
Like we're done.
For a day or two.
Yeah.
It's just interesting timing with how heavy of a change that was to the game.
Yes.
And given her release, and I'm sure where you were in the life cycle. I believe chat has another one for us here. We'll move on to Ven. Who do you think is going to be the next food skin? I'm hoping for boiled egg Zhongqi. One, are you on board with boiled egg Zhongqi?
No.
I prefer fat egg. That's my preference.
Yeah, there you go.
Iconic phrase.
Next food skin. Who do we have? We have Odin, Baka, Baba,
Xingqian.
I think that's
Baba.
That's technically it for the new brand of foods.
Yeah, so it's gonna be.
Do we count bun hats as a food skin?
No.
He's a baker.
He's gotta be full
he's not food.
Yeah, he's got to be full food.
These are so hard because I don't know which skins are like out for sure. So I'm always so scared to say.
We don't
keep you guys
not
safe
that I know
there.
him. I think we're good.
Isn't there?
I'm guessing
swear
next
to God
one's gonna be
released.
Hunter. It's gonna be another.
Yeah,
Boy, I'm gonna get in so much trouble if it isn't though. I'm just not gonna say. I know it's real. It's gotta be.
Wait, that skins
No.
that we have.
Better safe than sorry, right?
No, I'm just sending it. Sorry, AJ, if we haven't released this one, but I'm like 99% sure we have. Isn't there like the cereal like Kukulkan?
Oh yeah, that's
yeah.
what I
Oh, that's out.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
out.
it's like a
That's
cereal.
That's
not
not
the
a.
same thing.
But see,
No,
he
it's
is not a
He's not
cereal.
food.
That's true. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah.
Hebo
yeah.
has an ice cream skin where
That's
he's
not
ice
the
cream.
same.
Oh, and so does
Same,
Ymir.
though.
But it's a little different.
It's a little
Ymir
different.
has an
too.
ice cream skin.
Medusa's a gummy worm.
Does she?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know
It's a
if
sweet
I've ever
skin.
seen that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
but
Unlucky.
is it really a gummy worm though?
No, it's not like
She's
a
a gummy
food skin.
snake.
Yeah, it's gotta be
Yeah.
like a full food.
These are
skin.
like hot dog based skins, I've realized, right? Odin's the hot
Well,
dog. Baba Yaga's.
Got bacon.
Right.
Huh?
Okay. All right, I'm way off.
Yeah, she's a
Oh,
bee.
Bacchus is food in the Bacchus
Oh.
breakfast.
That's not the same either, because it's not like the same like art style. It's not like the cartoon arms with the like gloves and things like that.
Here's the
Yeah.
only progress we made here is that boiled egg Jean Quiz is a bad idea.
That's not a good one. No.
Sorry,
Respectfully.
Ace.
Thanks for your question, though. And keep watching Smite Game, please. Don't insult him, Dave. Come on.
No, I'm sticking. I nearly doubled down and then I nearly pulled back.
Was this insightful?
All right, here we go. This is an actual one. God, all right, I did burn Ace a little bit towards you. This is an actual question.
Okay.
With the new HUD, disregarding any bugs, are there any plans for HUD skins? I've seen this talked about a lot.
Yes.
Is there?
The current plan at the moment is that HUD skins are disabled. We plan to, in the future, move on and kind of remake the current existing HUD skins for the new HUD. And then from there is when we could create more HUD skins. It's not a guarantee. But we want to make sure that due diligence is done for the owned stuff that players already have that they bought in the past.
Correct. That's a good angle to look at it through. So there's your answer. Yeah, I'm excited to see what people get done with the new HUD. I think it looks amazing when doing all the
Truing.
show off stuff
Truing.
when we're doing all the cool show off stuff on the show. I just think it looks very clean.
Agreed.
And up to date, and so I think it's a really cool.
And I'm just gonna put it out there, right? This is a hot take here.
Okay.
I'm gonna do a hot take here.
Yeah, hit me.
Okay.
If you don't like the new HUD, you're just bad, right?
Oh.
There we go.
Thoughts?
Oh,
The
Yeah,
hot-
Get some
Okay.
hot sauce in here. Right?
good?
Dave started antagonizing chat.
Is that good?
Ben is right with it. I can't.
Huh?
I can't. You're allowed to antagonize
It's
the
true.
player base.
It's just true.
I am not.
It's just true. Sorry.
You are
I'm just
allowed
gonna
to
say
say
it.
I think this is a theme now because didn't Mike say the same thing about
Mike
Tara?
said something similar. Yeah, he was
About
very
Tara.
antagonistic, and
It's
I
just
respect
true.
that. And I like
Listen,
During
get
my
used to
hot
something
take
new.
video.
Grow
Yeah.
up. Huh?
During my hot take
You're welcome
video,
to
I
think.
said that.
I just can't
I
say
said
it.
that also. We love poking and prodding a little bit. I was warned that this next one is a long one.
I'm ready.
With the change of gods that leap into, I think you wanted to
Yes,
talk
we
about
did
Yes,
this
we
a
do
little
want to talk about this
So
one.
with the change of gods that leap into persistent crowd control fields, example, Nox or Ganesh 2, what was the implication of its change being an indirect, or was the implication of its change being an indirect nerf considered? And if so, will there be any adjustments for said gods affected?
First things first, I think we should clarify what
Yes.
this person's talking about for those
Yes.
who did not read the notes because this is not something that we mentioned in the patch notes.
Yes.
So the change here is that in the past, let's say you're playing Fenrir. I, as Fenrir, am jumping into a Poseidon Whirlpool, which cripples.
Yep.
And normally how that would work is I would play my effects, I would play all my hits, except I would do no damage and I would not stun. And so for a long time, it's been a bit confusing as to, oh, I've done all there is to do, but I lost my cooldown, I lost my damage, and I lost my effect. But all my FX played. So theoretically, it looks like I should have done it.
Right.
But you did it. So the change that we have made is now that you do that, you still are crippled afterward, but the effects that you would have applied are being applied, so damage, stun, etc. All good still. So to follow up on the implications of that change is that we understand that this has technically removed some counterplay to certain things, but we also felt that this counterplay was kind of locked behind this wall, this timing of like, you really need to be in kind of the millisecond of I'm hitting at the right time with stuff like knockups or the cripples to really be getting this effect. And again, the FX, we're still playing anyway. So visually, auditorily, you were still seeing and hearing these abilities go off. So in our eyes, it felt a bit like a bug, more so than anything. And it was also really feels bad for the character that was leaping into things because you basically committed your entire movement ability and now you're stuck in a bad place and you've gotten nothing for it.
Yep.
So it's kind of a twofer in that way.
Yeah, I think, I understand the concerns about removing counterplay and skill expression and all that kind of stuff. And that's something that particularly Lermy and I oftentimes over-index on as
we
players
really
who, we normally are trying to push the envelope in that direction a little bit too much. But in this case, I think it's pretty safe to say that the majority of the time that a player's damage or effect was being canceled from landing into a CC was happening incidentally. for the vast majority of players. Yeah. In the SPL, it's happening fairly frequently. You know, if an Odin is bird bombing in, your support who's playing Geb is good enough to time their shockwave to interrupt that with some amount of frequency. Yes. But even in that scenario, it isn't with 100% frequency because the timing window is so tight. Mm-hmm. And while yes, that feels very good for the, let's be generous here, 5%, I can't even be that generous. For the 3% of the player base who understands this mechanic and can consistently execute on it, it feels very good in those instances. For everyone else who ends up losing the damage and having no idea why and not having a very clear reason as to why, it doesn't seem worth it for an interaction that is so hard to consistently execute and so unclear visually. Because like Lermy said, the effects are going to go off. And I know we might get some comments, well, just make the effects not play. That's not how it works. Like, we can't do that.
Check the box.
So, simply stop it. So, in the name of visual clarity and player clarity, this is the way we would expect these abilities to happen in a vacuum.
Right.
That being said, it's a 10-year-old game. Precedent matters. We understand that there might be some players who aren't particularly happy with this change, but we think this is the better direction moving forward. In answer to the question specifically here from Fiddy is about gods like Nox, Ganesh, Poseidon, all that kind of stuff. Typically when we're making a change like this, we try not to get ahead of ourselves and buff these gods because we know they might end up they might end up being worse than they were before because our community doesn't always react super well to that at large. Also, again, with a change this narrow, I would be very surprised if Nox, Ganesh, Poseidon, Geb, gods that you can do this on more consistently than others, if their win rates move nearly at all from this change, I'd be pretty surprised. I'd be pretty surprised. So if they do, we will buff them 100%. Yes. Or if they need buffs, independently of this, yes, they are on our check this, next patch list.
We got a list.
They're on the list, and we will buff them if it moves them. Yep. I'd be surprised if it does.
On the radar, though.
On the radar.
You're gonna officially keep poking at. Then you got one from chat here.
Oh no.
Is boiled egg? Oh no, sorry, different one. Do you think that Anubis needs an urgent nerf, dominating mid and solo lane?
Should I sprint back to my house to nerf Anubis as soon as humanly possible?
Yeah, the alarm bell's ringing. So I'll ask this in two different ways. Do you feel like Anubis has been dominating mid and solo? And if so, do you think, from your perspective, in need of some tweaks?
I don't know. It's kind of hard to judge that character because there's a certain thing of perspective from just playing against it. A guy that you haven't played against in a while is always going to be more impressive when just jumping right into the meta on something. Obviously being able to move in year one, that's a huge thing. He still has the same exact counters as he did before. I would say it probably has to do less with the character and probably more with the items than anything. Mm-hmm. So I would say, speaking on that sense, I don't think Anubis should probably get any nerfs. There's nothing like crazy number damage. Other characters do the same amount of damage, just not obviously what he can do. And the way he does it, which makes it more impressive. But the more and more that you play versus a character, the more you'll get to know, and then the more counters that will go into a character. And then it'll even out, understandably. Right. I would understand if Anubis' win rate goes up, right? That's just kind of a feature of not playing against the character in forever. It's just going to happen. But it'll level out once people understand what the character does and what he does well. But yes, he does use the mage items that are currently very good, very well right now. But so do a lot of the other mages,
and some of them have been adjusted for the.
His role's OP.
Well, he didn't say
for
that.
now, right? For now, we'll see.
Yeah, I can't say my role is OP or not because there are two devs here.
No,
so my role sucks.
Smart man. It stinks.
Yeah, my role sucks, and tanks are really OP right now. Really OP.
Write
so
that
are
down.
junglers.
Write that.
Okay, I'll take a note to compare with our data.
Junglers
sprint home the database.
OP.
Yep. Actually, speaking of jungle, the devs, you guys have a question about jungle starts. With how the new game starts in Conquest, can be the difference between starting behind or not. Do you foresee making it a little easier for players to understand how/where to pull the camps?
This is such a difficult question.
Yeah, it is hard.
Because
Yeah.
even we, at the end of the day, don't 100% know where the starts are going to be, why starts are going to happen, because teams will innovate it all the time.
Right.
The start that we did in development was not the same start that we ended up with seeing in live, especially for 10-1 when leashing was the go-to. We did not test pulling all 3 camps to the back camps.
Right.
And so things like that can happen. So we're always keeping an eye out, looking at streams, looking at pro teams, looking at even inexperienced players to see how they're doing this. So I think as good of an intention as it is to add more understanding of how to do this, with the frequency of how much it changes and how unfortunately bad it would look if we were wrong,
Right.
it would be tough to say for sure that we could do this. And that's not to say that we don't do it in general. We have, tutorials of conquests, and for very, very beginner players, we have like the average thing that you should do.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for that nitty gritty, what is going to min-max me? How am I getting to level 2 fastest? It is just kind of a little bit out of our hands.
Yeah, but that's the beauty of like MOBAs, right?
Yeah.
Is how intricate you can really break stuff down into. So there might be like an accepted start.
Yeah.
But with different compositions, different players on the opposing side, if you want to get to lane faster versus more experience, whatever. I mean,
There's so
it's
many
probably
intricacies.
hard to nail down. This is the start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put blinking lights towards the.
Yeah,
and
I mean-
I'm sure that's not what Lord of Blades meant, but I mean,
Right.
it's hard to.
It's something that in
narrow
an
that
ideal
into.
world we would love to do something like this. But
Yes.
like Lermy said, the amount like these things take so much time. We can't wait. We can't release a patch. Wait to see what the pros do on it.
Yep.
Develop the feature, release it, and then change it the next patch. And
Yeah.
undo all of that work. It just
By
isn't
the
a smart
time that
use of
we're
our resource.
releasing a patch, we are far into work on the next one.
Yep.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's not to say that we don't ever take adjustments in the patch, because we definitely do.
Yeah.
And we go right up into the line as to when we can adjust things sometimes, because we
Oh,
really
yes.
want to make the best experience for you guys possible. So keep continuing to give us that feedback, because every single time that we can, we will push and push and push to get those changes in. But this is one of those things that is just unfortunately not easy for us to do.
Give me.
It's just like
Go ahead.
it's like a top end thing as well, I think, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're on the like top 1% of the game, right? Like, you're always going to do things like min-maxy like way faster,
Yeah.
right?
there.
Like, there's never going to be like a solidified start for like noobs. I mean, the biggest thing, right, for a noob, is literally just kill the camp that's in front of you and then just do the other camp, and then
Yep.
you're gonna get 2. You're just gonna get it slower, right?
Right.
And that's also comes into do with like watching other people play the game, or like asking questions to other streamers or pros or whatever you want to do, right? Or like asking in the game as well, like, oh, what
Yeah.
start should I do?
That's stuff that like we will
yeah.
do normally. Is we'll say,
Yeah.
hey,
yeah.
how do you guys want to start this game?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
they'll
Yeah, we do
just
that all the
tell
time.
you.
Yeah, exactly.
Even in our, I mean, like my games as well, like we ask, like, oh, what start are we doing here, guys?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
It doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah, me and Lermy and the Dave to Diamond streams that need to come back here soon. I am constantly asking.
You are asking.
Yeah,
That's a
what
good thing.
start we're
Okay, I was
doing.
gonna say you're
like-
asking to go. I was like, I'm ready. Let's go.
well, also that because we're plat 3. We're on like a 3-game
We're very
losing
close.
streak.
We're
This
getting
is
there.
terrible.
We gotta redeem ourselves here.
We do have to. It's the redeem team.
Yes.
It's the U.S. basketball team that lost or got bronze or whatever they did at that one Olympics, and now we're back.
getting there, yeah.
At some point, we'll see.
Eventually.
Yes.
We have a couple more questions from chat here as we begin to wind down the show. First of which, the same one from Lord of Blades.
Wouldn't it be crazy if we could recreate our answer word
Yes.
for word right here?
Oh no! Don't say that. I talked so much.
Yeah, go ahead, Lermy. Word for word.
Yeah.
Don't miss a single time.
Yeah, I can't. I can't do that.
Thanks for your question, though. Good question.
There is one in chat as we get the next one ready. Marty potentially available in pro play soon. Ven, you think that
Don't say
God's
he
gonna
needs
see some
nerfs.
play?
Please don't say he needs nerfs. I'm begging.
You think Marty the Manticore?
Listen, I'm just gonna plead the fifth and say I have SPL next week. So
Gotcha.
Smart.
You'll figure it out at Friday. We are first set.
Oh.
First
Oh,
of
you're
all,
kicking off the. That's
at
right. Gotta be
1 p.m.
It's gonna be the 1 p.m. one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We have
At-
SEC
on
to start the
Friday,
day.
whatever date.
21st
that
Yeah.
21st.
live.
Versus the Vikings.
Twitch.tv/.
I
First
can't
set.
wait to watch.
Yeah, you
Live
can watch it
here.
live
Live.
at twitch.tv/SmiteGame right
Right
here. Right
Holy,
here.
that's gonna
You
be great.
follow.
But watch, right?
And
Yeah, I'm gonna
subscribe
watch.
as well.
You actually are you? I thought that was emphasis on watch instead of cast. I couldn't.
Well,
tell
yeah,
which.
I am gonna watch. Yeah.
Right, but I thought that was like I can't wait to watch it instead of cast it. Maybe I misread your tone. We've been
not
out
at
of
all.
practice with one another for
I
so
know.
long. Our synergy is a bit out of whack.
it's just not going well at all.
Let's see what Chad has to say or ask to you guys as we begin to run down to the last couple of minutes of the show, and we'll see. Chat, too bad. Okay, Chat, you don't get to ask any more questions.
Well, I've got the chat open here,
Okay.
and I've got a couple. I was gonna dive into a different one that maybe I shouldn't.
Feel free.
But seeing a lot of questions about crit and spectral and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We are very aware of the community sentiment right now around crit and spectral and the pro discussion around it, the more casual discussion around it. The way that our schedule works for patches sometimes puts us in a place where we can't respond to things as fast as we would like to. It is absolutely something that we are looking into. And
It may just suck too.
it's right, yeah, that as well, or something like that. We did not just miss it. We didn't just not agree or anything like that. It's that with the way that we are beholden to the schedule, and a lot of times we can anticipate these things or get the things that we want in the right moments. Any type of adjustment to crit or spectral or anything like that, unfortunately, did not make it in time for this patch launch.
For a variety of reasons.
For a variety of reasons. Yeah, it wasn't just like, oh, we forgot. Like, we promise, we know, we understand your frustration. We apologize. We promise that we are intending on having some things that.
And that's not to say that crit was not adjusted in this as well, because again,
Sure.
we did touch a lot of the pen items.
Yep,
So
pen
Demon
items.
Blade is one of those that did get touched. And just alongside a lot of the late game pen, which is going to contribute to that as well. So like in the math build, especially, if we're talking math, your Hydra's got adjusted, your Dominance got adjusted, Demon Blade's adjusted, Fail Not's adjusted. A lot of those are touched, but it's not specifically crit the stat, it's crit the items that did get touched there.
We're going to wind down here shortly. I do have a non-serious question. And so I'm actually not sure there's even a great answer to this. Will you introduce Towers or the Phoenix as a god at any point in the game?
Yeah.
How would that work? Just super immobile?
Apparently, Lermy is the one designing that god, because not me.
You just stand still, and if they get close to you, you hit them.
Gotcha, but there's
Okay,
no
so your
mobility.
one is that you just like breathe out a whole bunch of tower shots in a big cone, but you can walk a little slowly now. And
Wait,
initially
you
in
can
development,
walk? Around?
yeah, initially you
Okay.
were standing still. Your 2 is like a stun. Your 3 is like a circle, and then your 4 is that you're the ultimate tower.
Wait.
Oh,
I
that's
thought,
good
I thought
thinking.
my ult would be I make the ton of goo area around me.
Oh,
What if I
okay.
could summon a Draugr to like take one of the teams and like tell them to give me a buff? I'm like, hey guys, here's my Draugr. Go buff me now.
The Trebuchet too.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
And this
Trev,
actually,
that would
so
be
this is
good.
gonna be the final question on this show, because you guys have provided a lot of really good insight. And so I want to end on another silly one.
Okay.
Of all the minion jobs in the history of Smite,
I've heard this bit.
which one would you like to have? I've said that I would like to be the one riding the siege juggernaut, and he had the little basket on his back, and he had 2 archers. I want to be one of the archers riding around on the siege juggernaut.
Do you think you're qualified for that? I don't mean to offend you, Dave, but think about
I've
it
got really
logistically.
good eyes.
That thing is like stomping back and forth, right?
Yeah.
That is going to be nearly impossible to hold your balance and then be they do not miss.
My constitution would give out on me first.
They've
before-
never missed. They literally have never missed a shot from up there.
They've been trained.
Okay. Do you think you could withstand that training?
I could.
Okay.
Not withstand that training. All right. Kind of final thoughts from you guys here. What do you think you're monitoring?
Oh, I was
most
going to
least-
answer
Oh,
the
yeah, go
minion
ahead.
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would
minion
be a
question.
fire imp because
fire
they
imp,
were.
yeah, sure.
I just want to be a little guy.
Little guy running around throwing
Yeah,
fire
that's-
bolts.
that's
How
what
about
I
you,
think.
Ben?
He took mine.
All right,
But
fire imp.
season 1.
Fire alley.
Brute minion.
Season 1 brute minion.
Fire brute minion. Because those
Yeah,
are the
literally
OG,
invincible.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Difficult to
Absolute
to end,
unit.
right?
Those things were.
Yep.
Lermy.
This
100%.
may be cheating, but I want to be Denton. Denton was a minion.
Oh, true.
That's true.
He gets to
That's
meet a
your
lot
God.
of famous
Respect
people,
that.
you know.
Yeah.
He sometimes dies, but he always comes back. So
Wait, I want to be the minion that Yorm spits out for his wave.
Yeah, that's good thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just your life. That's your purpose.
I'm just sitting
your
in his
role.
mouth waiting until he
Right.
wants to
Exciting.
wave at someone.
Yeah. Nice.
All right, we'll give those in
Doesn't he
chat.
clap? Does he clap too?
Oh, yeah,
It
maybe
is
it's the clap,
yeah,
not the wave.
The
Yeah,
wave
does
he like
both,
wiggles
I
a
think.
little bit.
Yeah, I think
Oh
he does
yeah.
both.
Not, oh man, I just doubled my workload. I don't want that
And
anymore.
thus doubling your pay, though. Is the way it works.
Oh, okay.
All right,
They
so
get paid
I want
for
to
that?
give those in chat. Kind of their one final dev insight for this show. Between Aggro and
Wasn't it
Lermy,
insightful?
it was insightful into who we are as humans. What do you
Hey,
think?
you
the
think
big
people care
things-
less about that than our game thoughts? You think they care more about the game than who we are as humans?
That's messed up, Chad.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I actually
100%.
Yeah.
I need to go talk to Susan. What are you between you two? What do you think what are you monitoring most after this update, and keeping your eyes on as far as tweaks, changes?
I think you have a very clear answer.
Yeah, Ix for me.
Chel for you.
Yeah, definitely gonna be monitoring Ix Chel. I think the way that the pen changes affect late game bursts is going to be something else that I'm going to be keeping a particularly close eye on. How do tanks feel? How does squishy versus squishy damage feel? All of those types of things, I think, are going to be my primary focus. But of course, across the whole patch, I'm going to have my tabs on every square inch of the battleground of the gods.
I would expect nothing less from
How many
Aggro.
square inches is that?
Yeah, that's. I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah. Okay. Lermy, same answer as Aggro. Different. Do you have?
Pretty similar, right?
Gotcha.
I think for me, it's really going to be how the late game feels. Because the big pen changes, especially, I'm going to be on the lookout, whether that's Discord, Reddit, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, all those platforms. We're watching. We're
That's
looking.
right.
We are.
So if you got any feedback, please let us know. And of
So
course,
watch
we ourselves will be on the battleground of the gods playing
of
it
course.
as well. So
Yeah,
we
watch
gotta
out for the
playtest our own
Dave cues.
changes.
Yeah,
Why would
got
we
to.
never do that? I mean,
Got to.
if you're hitting the queues between 1 to 4 a.m., I'll be in those. Okay, so make sure
A
you're
few
in
hours
those.
before that, it'll be the Dave Lermy queue. So
Exactly,
so watch out on
exactly.
the rank scene. Then the Highland Ravens kick off in a week and 2 days.
Yep. That was us.
Who'd you say your opponent was?
Leviathans.
The Leviathans.
Levi's.
Are we looking for a dub here in just about a week? Is it you gonna start off the year 1-0 in the Order Division?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Got
we're on that side.
I think.
Whatever side
I
that
could
one
be
is.
way wrong.
Yeah. Well, I think we're looking pretty good so
Good.
far going into it.
Love that.
And yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
That's the 21st. We're going to be kicking off the SMITE Pro League. All right, everyone. Thanks for asking the questions. Thanks to the devs. Thanks to Ben for sitting down for the Dev Insight Show. Until next time, enjoy SMITE. We'll see you on the battleground. Bye.
Teach it. Maybe for real this time?
Yes! Yes!